Alright, so this video will demonstrate how to install an m.2 SSD into a Lenovo ThinkPad T570 laptop, specifically an m.2 2242 SATA III SSD. This one happens to be 240 gigabytes and by a brand called Transcend, brand that I've used many times and have had success with. And what we'll be doing is installing this as the Windows boot drive. Of course, you can also use it as cache to speed up your current Windows install or Linux or whatever. Or you can dual boot Windows, Linux, two different types of Windows, etc. So let's start by opening this thing up. Alright, after removing the battery, what you'll need is a Phillips head screwdriver, and we'll start by removing the screws 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we can lift the back panel off. Now we'll use something like a plastic guitar pick or this tool to score around the palm rest and make sure that we don't scrape or mark up anything. Alright, so this area is normally where a 2.5 inch hard drive or solid state drive or a NVMe adapter can be installed. Unfortunately, for some reason, whenever I install an NVMe SSD drive with this ribbon cable attachment, it just does not get recognized, or it's spotty. I'm not too sure, but I'll have to troubleshoot that later. So luckily, we do have the option to install this instead and still have a totally functional laptop. So right next to the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth card is the spot to install the m.2 SSD. So all we have to do is remove these two antennae, which are here if you do have a WWAN card, which also fits into this exact same spot. And with the label facing up, gently install the SSD, usually at an angle, and then with one finger hold down and the other hand screw in. And that's all it takes. So I went ahead and installed the NVMe SSD caddy with a 240 gigabyte SSD, just in the event that it does get recognized, and that would be nice to have that issue resolved. Let's get the back panel back on and then we'll install Windows. Alright, so I have Windows 10 loaded onto this USB. I'll plug in a power source. I'll plug in the USB drive into an available USB port, power on, and start hitting enter. Alright, and once you're greeted with this screen, let's hit F1 and we'll enter BIOS. Alright, we can see here that we have 8 gigs RAM, Intel Core i5-6300U CPU. And let's navigate over to Startup and boot, and here we can see that the m.2 Transcend SSD is recognized right here. So we're going to move that up to boot option number 1. Verbatim store and go is the Windows 10 USB. NVMe 0 is the solid state drive that's not being recognized. So we'll just leave it as boot option number 3 for the moment. Just in case your m.2 SSD doesn't show up, you go to Security tab, I/O port access, and make sure that wireless WAN is enabled, and that will activate your SSD. So let's hit F10, save, and we'll hit enter again. This time we'll press F12 and we will select your USB hard drive with Windows 10 on it. So now we're at the Windows splash screen here, and we'll hit OK, or next, install now. And once you're greeted with this screen, we can accept the license terms, hit next, go to custom, install Windows only, and the SSD is already wiped, it's fresh, so we can just hit next, and we'll come back once Windows is installed. So we have Windows 10 up and running well, snappy and fast. Now if you're wondering, the m.2 SSD that we just installed will run at SATA 3 speeds, which is still perfectly fine. You'd have the same experience with a 2.5 inch SSD, and you would probably have a little bit faster with the NVMe SSD, but results could vary and it really depends on what you plan to do. I should also note that the NVMe solid state drive with the ribbon cable attachment to the motherboard is still not showing up, and that still remains a mystery. Maybe it has something to do with the cable. I'll troubleshoot later on. As you can see in disk part and command prompt, we aren't seeing anything except for the m.2 SSD that we just installed. If you run into this problem, at least you have the option to install something like I did in this video, so it could be worse. So hopefully this video helped you out, and let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Also, if you want to learn more, maybe we can discuss. Otherwise, I hope this helped you out, and have a great day.